Greetings to all of you. I am Anupama Ramachandra, the principal of Delhi Public School Electronic City. And today I am privileged to be speaking to Mr. Solil Chatterjee, the Managing Director of Unified Learning, to give a very brief and a very short introduction about him. I am very happy to inform all of you that he has been the pioneer who brought Moodle platform to India for the very first time. And thus he is the authority on open source learning management systems. And it is indeed a privilege to talk to him today, especially since we are going through these unprecedented times. We are in conversation with him for his perspective on the new normal in the education sector. Mr. Chatterjee, it is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Sir, to begin with our conversation, today we would like to focus on what the new normal is going to be after this pandemic. And we would like to focus on safety of students with the schools closing down because of the coronavirus situation. The learning has taken different modes, and we are transacting curriculum through the best possible way, given to the fact that we have a lot of constraints. So primarily, I would like to ask you, sir, that when we are talking about digital form of education, what are the threats that you see that as educators we have to be conscious of?
I think the biggest point of difficulty is, as always, the starting point. What is it that we seek to achieve? I'm talking everything you read in the context of what you said, the post-COVID era. I'm not sure whether the target should be just finding an alternative to classroom teaching, simply because of safety reasons. I think our mandate to ourselves should go well beyond that, because that is narrowing our own thinking and, in fact, removing the great potential that lies possibly ahead of us. I would define or redefine that the object of education going forward for schools, that is up to class 12, should be, and mark my words very carefully, you should now use this as a God-sent opportunity. We should now use it as a God-sent opportunity to let children take more control over their own learning. It's far too long that we have followed a very, very hybrid system, which is neither Gurukul, neither it is rote learning. I don't know what it has become now. It's become a real mishmash. And it is still very teacher-led. I am not against teachers. I'm very pro-teachers. But I feel we are giving teachers a very difficult task to try to teach 25, 35 children, all of whom have their own individual learning systems, styles, predilections, learning. No longer you come to school and you want to be a doctor and engineer. Today you can come to school and be a Mahendra Singh Dhoni or a Sushant Singh Rajput. There's so much open to us. And our job as schools or teachers are to unlock the minds of the children. Now, you're not going to be able to unlock it with the current curriculum and the current way of thinking. We should now use, as I said, this post-COVID era to give children more control over their own learning. How? First of all, naturally on the history, geography of it all. Second, which is mentored, is gated by the teachers in school, but you should let them interact themselves within the classroom digitally from their home. Is ideal when two children are sitting in their home, instead of going across to each other's homes and doing their homework, which, as you know, they're doing now. What are they doing after school now? They're either going to tutors or they're going to each other's homes and doing, their homework. That is what's been happening for the last, oh, God knows, I don't know how many years, 10 years, 15 years. That is the space that you have to take over digitally. That means you are the gatekeepers. The school teacher is the gatekeeper. That's all. He is not the leader of the learning process. The leader of the learning process are the children, not even the individual child, but the children together, collaborative. So it should be, as I said, a student-centric, collaborative learning system should be fostered, in which the mentor and the gatekeeper is the school stroke their class teacher. and she seeks the aid of any number of people, even indeed the parents of the children. Parents also teach. How
Right.
many children are being taught by their parents? So in this learning system, everyone is a stakeholder, a denominated stakeholder.
Right. Okay. So, yes, sir, I completely agree with you. Even as educators, we are always aspiring to make the system as child-centric as possible. And we want every child to ultimately be their own mentors, and we want them to be intrinsically motivated to learn, and we want them to learn at their own pace. But the problem here is that as adults, as teachers and parents, we don't trust our children enough. We always fear that they will get into trouble if we give them too much of freedom when it comes to learning for themselves. So according to you, my next question is, sir, that what do you think should be the prevention programs that we need to educate our students about, so that they are very well aware of the boundaries that they have to stay within when they are doing it on their own?
Well, you have now given me the entry to go further. When we earliest talked about safety, the safety, security are the standard methods of removing, the problems, the dangers in a school environment. But today we have to talk of safety of the learning process. So a lot of these things can be retrofitted. Safety is a paradigm. But what do you deploy safety to? You can deploy it to hardware, you can deploy it to travel, you can deploy it to canteen management, you can deploy it at the gate, you can deploy it any number of places. But the principal place to deploy it is safety in teaching, safety in learning, which is what you said. And so far, we have never even scratched the surface of how it is a misnomer to say a child, if given control over his own learning, will go rushing off to sites which are forbidden. Because it is the simplest matter to make him work in a closed environment. Just like you have safety in a campus physically, you can have safety on a in a website. So you cannot move outside it.
Okay.
So, that is the safest method. And let me assure you, no matter how good the hackers are in the classes, the safety there will be less dangerous if it is compromised than safety in COVID. I'll tell you that much.
Right.
So you have to choose between the devil and the deep blue sea.
Right, I agreed. I completely agree with what you say, sir. So just a little more extension to this question. How do we actually lay out a safety net for our children, especially now that they're exposed to so much of digital use? They're always hooked onto their gadgets. And now it is a demand of the day that they have to use their gadgets. So with these conditions, how do we exactly lay a safety net for our children that they don't stray away? And as parents, how do we keep a check on them that they are not being either misused, or they are not misusing the freedom that they've got to use these digital gadgets?
Yeah. Another very good question. And I would like to answer it very specifically. Why does a child stray? In fact, why does an adult stray? Why does the mind stray? When it loses concentration. It's been found that the average period of time a person can maintain constant attention is about 3 to 4 screens of a
Hmm.
computer.
Okay.
Beyond that, he loses attention, and that's when his mind strays, and that's where this question of going here and there arises. His concentration, his whole being can be captured at the most over 4 screens. So you design your learning programs in bits and bytes of 4 screens at a time with
Okay.
a timer. So you know that he's got so much time, and you can set the timer individually for each student. So you know that for this student, with his level of skill in learning in this particular subject, in so many minutes, he can go through 4 screens. And you give him a test on those 4 screens. And if he passes, let him go and wander for a while. Give
Okay.
it to him in bits and bytes, 4 screens at a time. You cannot lay a huge syllabus in front of him and ask him to maintain conscious effort over a long period of time. It's not possible. It's not possible in classroom, still less possible outside.
Okay.
So this is where the digital stuff comes in. How do you build these tools into your learning? Where these 4 screens come? He gets a predetermined period of time to study them. He gets a predetermined question or a quiz on those 4 pages, and then he moves on. He gets graded. It automatically goes to his grade book. These grade books are straight away sent to his parents, his own grade book, and his teacher. And that's how these are the building stones of the learning program.
Okay, thank you, sir, for that response. Sir, as you are very aware, the boys' locker room episode that happened very recently has sent waves of shock throughout the entire country, and it has made us all the more apprehensive of trusting our children with the digital medium. Now, I would like to know from you that, and also you know very well that there was a lot of blame game that the school is responsible, the parents are responsible, but that is not my point of question. I just want to know from you, how do parents and teachers, the school and home, take responsible partnership in educating our children about safe use of cyber tools?
First of all, we have to demystify sex. Till we as a society in India don't do that, children will always look for the forbidden. You know, a diabetic will always look for sugar intake, knowing very well it's bad for him or her. You have to educate and demystify. The minute you start doing that, and several societies have done it, where where so-called pornography is available most, there is the least interest in those societies in this. We hide it. In Muslim countries like Pakistan, we hide it even more than Delhi, India. They are more repressed. So what do? Google themselves tell you what they do. If you see what the the sites that people in Karachi hit, it'll make you blush as an adult. Why are you talking about children? So to answer your question, after giving this, I would say you have to give them demystified, give them limited tasks, and look whether they're going to do it digitally or not. If they want to experiment with sex, they will. You can't stop it. They'll find a book, they'll find a magazine, they'll find a graphic. It doesn't have to be boys' locker room. And in the past, that it was. Now what you're doing is, just like telecom, instead of going through 1, 2, 3G, you go straight into 4G, hope to get to 5G by 2 years' time from now. So this is the equivalent of that. I don't think you should destroy communication simply because 5G is too good to handle.
Right.
You're shooting the messenger instead of learning the message.
Okay, so yes, sir. So what I gather from you is that the forbidden fruit is always very tasty, and the only way of doing it is by giving the children the right amount of information whenever it is required. Age-appropriate information should be shared, and I think a lot of schools are having a health education, sex education at different levels of schooling, just so that children are okay to discuss if they want to, and they get their information from the right source. So this is the endeavor of all schools.
This is slightly more pedantic than I'd have hoped. You see, this is clinical knowledge. It's clinical, it's not emotional knowledge. Child, adult, everybody learns only when it's learnt at the emotional level. With all these schools giving all this training, as you said, how many children go back and discuss it with their parents? Can you tell me?
Very true. Very few, sir. Very few conversations happen.
I would say, at the risk of offending the tribe of schools,
Yes.
the school manager, I would say schools again are missing the wood for the trees.
Mm.
They're doing it kaam chalao because society says you must have something. They know it's not going to work.
Okay.
And it will not work.
Right. Yeah. So we have. So what is the other? Then what is the way forward, sir? If there is block, how do we? Yes.
Again, it has to be collaborative. It has to be mentored. The same words apply to safety, to learning, to sex, to everything else. These are the simple building blocks of human society.
Right.
Learning and education is only a part of human society, but whatever applies there applies everywhere.
Right.
So it just means you control the learning by giving them limited tasks. You keep them in a safe environment. You keep them in an informed environment. You let them share information. And let me assure you, if they do it digitally, it's easier to catch. It's easier to catch. If parents were as digitally savvy as children, they wouldn't have been able to do this. Why are they doing it? Because parents are very, very backward.
Yes.
So it's high time parents also woke up and realized that they have to be also be slightly digitally savvy. And
Right.
with all this home learning, home staying, maybe this is the time for parents also to educate themselves.
Okay.
Even to be a good chowkidar, you have to be educated, no? In the ways of thieves.
Very true, sir. Very true. Sir, now, a more a comprehensive question, I would say. So, according to you, how do we make schools safe? Yeah, I know it takes a lot of it, but if I have to ask Mr. Solil Chatterjee, how do we make schools safe? What would be your answer, sir?
I think the school would be much safer and society would be much richer if we had what's called blended learning. May I say something with the greatest of respect to my fellow Indians, especially urban, middle, and upper middle class Indians? What has happened is that the old system, the old parampara of joint family, educating, I'm not talking about imparting literacy, educating the child has been shoved into the school, onto the school. So you've changed one for another. You've not added value at all. It has to be both. The child has to be educated at home by people who they can emotionally connect with also. He has to be allowed to connect with his peers. And he, of course, has to have his umbilical cord with the school also. Until all of these three are in balance and they can mutually coexist, you cannot make any system, you cannot make any school any richer than it is today.
Thank you so much, sir. It has been indeed a very enlightening talk that I've had with you, and a lot of clarifications and a lot of inputs you have given. And I am also now thinking about or rethinking many things that we have been working on. So, thank you very much, Mr. Solil Chatterjee, to join us today and to talk to me. It has been a pleasure. Thank you very much.